All right. I'm gonna wait one more minute and just see if anybody else happens to hop on. Thanks for joining us, Josh. Can you hear us? Thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you.
Josh gets a little grayer every time you see him.
More white nowadays, Ross.
More distinguished looking, yeah.
Okay, not seeing anybody else coming on. I'm going to go ahead and get us started at 5 minutes after 10. Welcome, everybody, to the Trinity County Collaborative Group Recreation Committee for May 8th, 2026. I think everybody that's on knows everybody, so I don't know that we necessarily need to, I think we can, is this your first meeting here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that you had attended, I think, you've been attending some of the other meetings, perhaps. Okay, but I'll have you introduce yourself then, Evan.
Okay, yeah. For you guys, we haven't met yet. Evan, I just started almost 3 months ago now, not even quite yet, on as a forest health program manager here at the RCD. But I have an interest in recreation, and yeah, we're doing some trail day organizing, and some other trying to get my feet wet with anything I can. So
Great. So we'll just go ahead and go around then so that you have the benefit of
yeah.
meeting everybody. Kelly Sheen, Executive Director for the Trinity County RCD and Collaborative Facilitator.
Jim Spear, co-facilitator for the Trinity Collaborative.
Pete Finney, public, we're the
Ross Molyneux, interested in public.
And I'm Susan Molyneux, public member.
Great. And then online we have Monique.
Hey, Monique, Forest Partnership Coordinator on the Shasta Trinity, and I'll pass it to Josh.
Josh Smith, Watershed Center. Looks like Laura's on.
Hi, Laura Broadhead, BLM. I don't have a camera today, so just my voice.
Thanks for joining us, Laura. Okay, well, I think that's everybody that's on the meeting currently. So I'll toss to Jim.
Okay, Kelly, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome this morning. We will start off with agenda check. Anything on the agenda that we need to modify or change in any way? Add, subtract? Not seeing any. We're good there. And then the minutes from March 13th. Anything there? Okay. Moving right along. So Josh, you're up front. So what can you tell us? I apologize for the typo there. I keep getting TNC in my brain and not SNC. So what can you tell us? What's the update on the proposal there for the opportunity?
Yeah, it looks like that proposal's been accepted by the staff and it just needs to be verified by the board, which won't happen until June.
Okay.
And then Thule was just telling me that it'll probably be more like July before we'll actually get funding for that. So it's a little further off than we'd hoped. But
So
that is a really good deal. What was that?
I was just going to say, so there's usually the pre-proposal and then the proposal. Are you past the second hurdle then?
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Oh, great.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so the last thing is to get the board to vote on it. which is usually they do enough vetting up front that they don't typically, once you get to this point, you usually get the grant. It's pretty unlikely that the board would vote against it, but there's still a possibility. Rick Lutweiler is on the board actually, gets to, I don't know if he gets to vote. Maybe he doesn't, but he's involved with the that part of the process. And that meeting will be in Weaverville. That they're coming to Weaverville. Kelly probably knows more about that than I do. But the other thing I wanted to mention to folks about that is that, a part of that project is this uh, economic recreation based survey set that we're hoping to do. And, in talking with the Alec Gomka, who's the UC Cooperative Extension economist based out of Del Norte County, he's got a set aside a certain amount of time to work in Trinity County on this topic. And so he's really interested in helping. We've got a guy named Kai Hoadley who's working for the Watershed Center in a bunch of different aspects, but he's got a degree in economics, and they've been kind of working on a set of surveys that we're hoping to get out to people. The timeline with the grant not starting until July theoretically is a little bit problematic in that we'd like to get surveys done, 4th of July and hopefully some of the bigger holidays before then. So this would be, Alec with the UC puts together the majority of the surveys, and then we need to somehow figure out how to get folks on the ground and get these surveys out to people as much as possible. The more, data points that we have, the better the information will be, the more useful it'll be for us being able to make decisions. So I was gonna see if anybody else is interested in helping kind of give out some of these surveys. Some of it would be, being at trailheads. Some of it would be being at boat ramps. Some of it would be being in front of holiday market. So we're gonna go around and ask what other organizations might have some capacity to just help out with some of the surveys. And I think, next time around I'll try to get Alec to come talk about this more because I don't know enough about it. I'm just trying to share that this is a really big opportunity right now, and it'd be nice to get some of this information this year before we miss out on the tourists coming to town and asking them what they want to see and what they spend money on and that kind of thing. I don't know if you guys have any questions about that. I don't know if I can answer them.
I would just say, Josh, I don't know the boundary of your study. If it includes any BLM sites, then we have a seasonal coming on who we could commit to a few days of being at BLM sites. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the SNC project is for the Upper Trinity only, but the UC Extension guy, Alec, is really keen on whatever the county thinks is important. So there's already they've been running this practice run with this mountain bike specific study in Weaverville. So we'd like to kind of ramp that up and do more of that. So that would be something that BLM could definitely help with,
Yeah.
being on BLM that land there.
Yeah, we always have so many questions about the fishing guiding because they are loud, and it's unclear to me how actually impactful they are. So
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't talked about fishing yet. Maybe we should bug him about that. I'm sure that's a really important piece of the pie.
Okay, I guess that is a question that I have, Josh. Is this like all recreation opportunities? Is it anything? And it also seems like it's so commercial use.
It started out as Trinity Alps specific, and then as we got into discussions with the economists, he was like, "Well, if we're going to do all this work, we might as well kind of have it cover more bases." I don't know how broad it can go, but he has said already that he's very interested in working on like uh lake recreation uses. So Kai that's working for us with the SNC grant is going to focus on the Trinity Alps piece. And so he'll be working with Forest Service staff on that as soon as we know more about it and get money. But in the meantime, Alec has, at least said he's interested in working on the lake. He's already put together this mountain biking specific survey for Weaverville. And I don't know, we could just talk to him to see if there's other things that we think are important to know about, like fishing, like Laura said, then I think we should just talk to him. So I'll try to get him to maybe come to the next one of these meetings. I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, I think also having like a goal or like a single line statement so we could all make sure that we align um with the intent would be helpful for me at least. And then I can bring it up to other folks as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can find what we have written in the proposal, simplified it a little bit. It'll take me a second.
Thanks. And yeah, that would be a great thing to bring to our meeting on the 13th.
Yes. Yeah, I can do that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Josh. That's exciting news. Yeah. Anything
Thanks,
else?
guys.
Anything else from you, Josh, or any questions for Josh?
I was still talking about having trail user counters out there that we know how many people are using the trails. We can quantify that. Are you still to talk about that?
Well, that's kind of on the next agenda item a little bit, maybe for Monique. I think she has some stats for us, maybe for last year, but just let's close out Josh. Any other questions for Josh? Okay, Josh. Again, thanks.
I do have one last thing on that, what Ross's point.
for it.
We asked for funding for that in the SNC grant, but we decided that we needed to move on it sooner than later. So we just purchased some trail counters. So they've been stuck in some sort of they're from Canada apparently. So we've had an issue getting them. But we have bought, I think there's 4 in the kit that is coming on the way, and so we're gonna try to get them out. And we'd like some input from folks on where they think we should use them. But we'll be talking to the Forest Service folks about that too.
So is that like a trail counter? Is that then people who use it would what?
Just walk by. Just walk by.
Oh, really?
Counts them.
Kind of motion sensitive or something? Kind of like a camera or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say they're lasers, and you can calibrate them to count vehicles or people
Oh.
or horses or
Or
like
what-
there's.
what
I
kind of
assume
user it is.
these
All
are the kind.
right.
That's correct.
They are moderately accurate, I would say. I don't always trust them, so that's important to remember.
Battery charge, I suspect. Or is that-
They don't use much power, so they must be batteries.
Okay. Well, I think that was kind of your question, huh, Ross?
Yeah.
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 Very good.
Because the option is just a guess on how many people are using the trails. At least the counter, however accurate it is, it's better than what we got.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is where go ahead, Laura.
Oh, I was going to say there's a process called calibration that is the key to really get them accurate, is like if you're counting vehicles, you also need to have a sense of like people coming out of the vehicles, how many are in each vehicle. So there's still a lot of guesswork unless you have the people power to actually do some physical calibration.
And this is where the Alec, the UC Cooperative Extension economist, is really savvy on this kind of stuff. He's done it a bunch, and he also has access to other data sets that I think a lot of us don't. So he was talking about somehow using cell phone data to like calibrate people who use Strava and then also some sort of other GPS data, which I don't know much about. He'll have to talk to you guys about that.
Josh, have you ever looked at Strava Metro? Do you have an account with them?
No, I haven't, but I think that was one of the things he was talking about, is buying data sets.
Yeah, well, they just let you register if you're like a partner or like, affiliated, agency affiliated or whatever. But it gives you it breaks areas down into like cells and it lets you know like number of Strava users. Of course, that doesn't capture people who aren't using Strava, but it does give good ideas of like graphically through their UI of like entry points and then use areas. But yeah, it's a pretty cool tool. I think it's still kind of in development though, but it is free to use.
Copy that. We'll bring it up with them. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks again, Josh. We're going to move on to recreation stats. Monique, do you have something for us?
Yeah, I do. Um, Gosh, I'm blanking on the name. There's another popular app that for trails. It's not Strava. Um,
All trails.
I'll, I think it's All Trails. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure Forest Service has an account and gets data from there as well. So we should be able to get information to you there. Also, Aaron McBride is giving me a call. So let me just say if he has any updates.
Yeah, Trail Forks also has a heat map situation that can be helpful. But again, you're only then capturing super users who use Trail Forks, Strava, etc. So
Right. But I think that that would all be complementary data and showcase different things. Like we want to know who's carpooling, who's not, who is using what app over another, and how that then also aligns with our, guess this is a segue, to our Trinity Alps Wilderness Permit usage. So we do have the data for that. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Oh, here we go. Okay. Uh, I'm sending a request to you, Kelly.
Yeah, it's different than it. They recently changed how that setting works, so it has to be requested. So it should be good to go.
Thank you. This is nice. Yeah, I like it gives me a screen number so I know which one I'm sharing. Cool. So this is our Trinity Alps Wilderness permit usage. This is the data that's currently being collected for 2026. And this comes from our front desk gal. Her
I
name's Lynn.
can't see your screen. I don't know if others
Oh,
can.
you know what?
Yeah.
I think I just exited out on it. Okay, wait.
In
No,
it.
I see. Okay, now it says share. Okay. Now I'm good, I think.
There it
Yep.
is.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so this so far is 2026 data, and this comes from our lovely front desk gal. Her name's Lillian. She collects all the wilderness permits from trailheads, districts, and wherever we may be storing them. Sometimes they're not at all trailheads. Sometimes we have them at districts such as Coffee Creek, because that's a pretty far out there location that people coming from the three south would have easier access to. And then we also have our Junction City station, which I'm just going to bring this up as like a point of permit collection, deviation from or point of variation from what the actual count is, because our Junction City permit box, we're struggling to find the key for that right now. And so I don't know how accurate the data was from last year, if those were counted, if they weren't. So there's that. We usually don't tell people to drop them off there for that reason, but I think we just need to get a new box there so we can fix that problem for the future. Um, but so far in 2026, our wilderness usage. So I will also say that these permits are not for people that are going out to just recreate on a daily basis. Therefore, other data collected is helpful for getting a fuller picture of what the actual wilderness usage is, because there are people that visit wilderness trailheads just for the day, whether they're running or going swimming or whatever it may be. just hiking. And so far, I will just point out that from the data that I've been looking at, this is the highest start to the year that we've seen in the previous years. 2023, yeah, because it's accessible, right? Because we don't
Yeah.
have bad.
Could could you zoom in on that a little bit more? It's quite
Yeah,
small.
yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
There we go.
And also the color coding on here is going to be our districts. So this should really say Weaverville because
Look at all of them in March. Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot, definitely already. And then I'll show you the other ones for comparison. And I won't go in this discussion. I think we talked about this last year when I went through this, but I don't know exactly how the wilderness permits were calculated in 2023. There are a couple different ways that people can calculate the wilderness use permit situation. And because I don't know how they were done, on these years, we give a little caveat that this is the numbers of people per days on the trail. So Lillian is actually going and say a person on a permit says that they're in a group of 5 and they're going to be out from X day to Y day. She's counting them for all of those days that they're there. In the past, I don't know how that was. I mean, that's how it should be calculated, but we're not exactly sure because it's not written. So then for 2025, here's now our wilderness usage. Oh, and I put since this is complete data, I put a spreadsheet, or not a spreadsheet, a bar graph over here, or line graph, and I'll show that in a moment. But then, and that will show us what the most popular trail is, but usage was pretty good. Here, I'll just move to this so you can see a clear
What a
picture of data.
surprise.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, it's always.
Yeah, that's probably the
Or
highest.
definitely is. Where's the?
Um, Also for Big Fly, this data could also be collected from the Klamath because the Klamath has management over what's that trail over there?
Caribou Lakes.
Yeah. So then that's only a partial picture probably of a trail like that, but that's our one outlier, I think, in that situation. And then going up, so like Long Canyon's also Hobo, um, Gulch. So now our next to comparison would be Stewart's Fork, Stony Ridge, Swift Creek,
Goddard.
yeah, Stoddard. So Canyon Creek is definitely an outlier when it comes to
Yeah.
its trail usage. Um,
The highway of the Alps.
yeah, I guess so.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting data there. Also, I guess
Do
important
you
to note. Oh yeah, go ahead.
also collect for Grizzly? Because it's also, I mean, the more direct one, not Hobo Gulch, but the one that's on the Siskiyou side,
Right, Cecilville.
Cecilville, yeah.
Let me see. Um,
Grizzly up there. Oh yeah, there it is. Grizzly.
there's Grizzly Peak, but that's not Grizzly Lake. So I'm not seeing Grizzly Lake on here.
I wonder why. Is that because it's probably collected up on the Klamath too. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
That definitely could be why. Um, in which case, if we get actually, we only have Trinity Alps wilderness permits. I don't know how Klamath does I'm gonna have to look into how the wilderness is by forests might be managed differently if there is a different permit system. I think we do permits per wilderness. Well, yeah, I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one. Sorry, I don't want to speak out of my knowledge.
Are there any, again, I'm always skeptical of visitor use data because people are people.
Okay.
And so not that I've ever done this, but like a lot of times when I go to the Alps, there's not a convenient place to get a a wilderness permit. So are there any of those trailheads that you guys are like, wow, that doesn't seem to align with reality? Do you know what I mean? Like where it's just a place where people are accessing the wilderness where it's just not convenient to get any of the permits.
I don't recall seeing any permits at the trailheads myself.
Mm-mm.
No.
No, you have to go to the range. Exactly, that's where I always
The
go.
main office.
No, but you don't see them at the trailhead.
No.
I've been hearing references that somehow permits, you can get them at the trailhead. No, they're not at the trailhead.
No, you can drop off some places you can drop off a permit at the
Oh,
trailhead, but that's not really we don't I think there's only like one trailhead that I know of, and I don't even remember what that trailhead is. I feel like I just saw a permit drop box there once.
Hmm.
Um, but with that being said, yeah, that's a super valid point. The system only works if people follow the system, and this data is one aspect of it. Whereas again, people don't need to get a permit if they're only using for one day. Our wilderness rangers, when they're out there, we had a lot of days with wilderness rangers out in the field. I think we had like 800 days of like a volunteer. I can pull up that data really quick. I wasn't prepared. So let me pull up the accurate data of how many um days we were out there in the wilderness collecting data on whether people had a permit or did not. And when we have wilderness rangers out, they're able to give people physical permits if they're spending the night. But if we don't and we don't catch them, then that is a source of missed data. I still do think that this is an accurate overall representation of usage, at least in terms of what area gets the highest usage versus not.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I could see that.
I think that that's why I'm excited about this work with the SNC with Kai being in the Alps a bunch. He's going to try to work with the Wilderness Rangers and really get at that question of how many of these, like what's the percentage of users that are getting permits, and hopefully be able to kind of make this a bit more real world accurate.
Right. Um,
So Monique,
mhm.
yeah, I think I've raised this previously, but another data set, as a trail user that would be beneficial for me, I suspect others too, but some kind of an annual report on trail maintenance. Just what trails, have been cleaned up here in the last year or two, and which ones haven't been cleared up for a long time. Because again, I've been on some trails. I think it was Long Canyon just a couple of years ago. Wow, the amount of trees that you had to hop over or get around, or it easily added, a good hour, right, to the trip. And I think that's beneficial information for someone who's kind of trying to determine, okay, what trail do I want to hit? And I think that data point would be somewhat valuable to determine, okay, yeah, if it was just cleaned up last year, then yeah, I have a fairly high degree of confidence. I'm not going to have to be doing a lot of tree hopping.
Yeah, for sure. And so we do have that information. We do an annual reporting of where all people have gone. This is just an example of one forest employee that does a lot with our wilderness volunteers. And so I guess just for an example, when I was referring to the wilderness trail rangers that were going out there, we call them wilderness patrol. We collect this data from volunteers, from partners, and also from our Forest Service employees. And this is just an example of, again, one person's complete accomplishment report from last year. Whereas we, and not just this person, but aside from this program that they're managing, we have partners such as the CCCs that are going out into places like the Yoloboli Wilderness. They're going into the Trinity Alps Wilderness, and they do a ton of more intensive work. And then we have volunteers like Ascend Wilderness Experience. They did a substantial amount of work up Canyon Creek specifically to clear a lot of those downed woody trees, I think maybe like 2 years ago, where I think a crew went possibly last year, and it was, oh, well, actually I was out there last year, and it was a lot more manageable. So we only saw like maybe four or five down trees up to the second waterfall. But beyond that, I think it becomes a little bit of a scramble. I haven't gone on the whole trail myself, actually, but yeah, we were out there last year. So I guess this is just an example of things that I could provide to you in the future.
Well, I guess what I'm suggesting is like on that spreadsheet, you're showing utilization, right? But I would
Right.
envision a
Mhm.
similar spreadsheet, right, where it was just a quick, for a potential, user to review, and you've got some indication as to when that trail was last maintained or cleared, or you had a crew
Yeah,
or something, because if I look at something like that and something hasn't been addressed in 5 years, right? I know I'm going to encounter a lot of versus one that was just cleared the previous year, right? So again, I just think
totally.
it's a beneficial data set for potential
Okay.
users.
Yeah, we can totally get something like that together. And also, if you, our front desk does keep track of that information. So every time a crew does clear a trail, if we were to get like a visitor to call and they're like, hey, like, what's the condition? Sometimes we don't know because that trail hasn't been cleared, but we have a live map in our front desk where every time a crew clears a trail, we'll draw on it, say this is stock passable or not.
Okay, sorry.
But yes, I can see if we can start gathering information like that. I am not the recreation program manager, so I can only present this to other people, but I don't see why they wouldn't want to do that. Makes sense, right?
And maybe one other just kind of personal question. So I know on the North Fork Coffee Creek Trail, that bridge that burned up before you get to Hodges Cabin, I understand that project's been funded and there's plans to get that new bridge in this summer. Is that still on track as far as you know, or?
I don't know, but I could check in and get back with you on that. Mike would know, but he is out with a Seas crew until July.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if you could inquire about that and maybe put something out there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Anything else for us, Monique?
No, I'm good on that. Thank you for, unless y'all have any more
Yeah, any
questions.
questions for Monique? All right. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, go to Messel. Any update, Kelly, on that or?
There was a delay in the production for the trailer, so they were anticipating it originally in April, but now it's looking like it'll be later this month. So we should have something in that, and we should have it in hand, I think by the end of the month, I was expecting. But the problem is that all of the 4 different proposals that we put together for running it didn't come through.
Okay. So
So-
no money to run it.
So I'm not sure exactly. We have somebody else, Nisa had resigned.
Oh, okay.
And so that got handed off to somebody else in our ecology program. And I don't know exactly what's been discussed with regard to like how they're going to implement um, the trainings and things of that nature. So, Monique, have you heard anything about any of that at all?
I know that Allie is working with us, and she said that they were working on getting together the training with CDFW. We're also in discussions about a partnership agreement, but one of the big questions still does seem to be who can operate the trailer. I think there were plans, though, to have some interns through a CDFW program, or maybe it was BOR program, operate and run the trailer, but I had some questions out and they are not fully addressed yet.
Okay. Did we know? So I know there was like some sort of environmental compliance that needed to be done, mitigation or something like that with regards to its usage. Was that approved on your guys'?
Um, right now, I have some questions out to fully understand how the system is going to be set up. It seems like, based off how the system is for the boat cleaning, that there may not be any negative impacts. And so that there's no ground disturbing activity occurring. Um, but at the same time, we still have some questions out that need to be addressed. And I don't know anyone who has experience using that cleaning system, but that is definitely one of the outlying factors. I mean, it's kind of easy to tell us that there's not going to be any negative effects. But when it goes into implementation, we don't want things to happen that we were not expecting. So until our questions that we had out get addressed, we're not sure whether further environmental compliance is needed or not.
Okay, fair. All right. Well,
That's our muscle update.
That's the extent of it, right?
Okay.
Can I add, and I had missed the last meeting, but I heard through my partner who works at Whiskey Town, fiance, that they're reevaluating their golden mussel strategy because DWR is suspending theirs based on data, new analysis they've done at Lake Oroville, and they're saying like so that is, were you guys already aware of that?
No, we're not. I was going to bring it up, so go ahead.
Oh yeah, and again, this is professional hearsay, but from my understanding, I can send the press release, which I was just refreshing myself on. DWR, so the state is thinking that the water is too cold for mussel production,
Up this far north.
at least at Oroville. So I would think that we're in a similar boat,
Yeah.
if not better.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they're
right.
and they are potentially ending their inspections and control at Oroville. So
Berryessa though is like full on, I thought, man.
Well, that was my understanding too.
Different situation.
Warmer.
One Oroville is like Trinity. It has an extreme drawdown level. That's part of it. The water temperature was the other.
Okay.
The Department of Fish and Wildlife has done their surveys. It's something we ought to ask their representative to come to one of our meetings, Kelly, and review that there, because we may not have a need
Right. Wow.
here.
That'd be big. Yeah.
Definitely the water at Trinity is much colder than it is at Oroville, and the drawdown levels are fairly similar.
Sure.
So there may not be a need.
yeah, I mean, I think it's still in the works, but they're just reviewing the latest, best science as it comes, I think.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
don't hang your hat on that.
Well, yeah, no,
But it's good news.
that is good news. Yeah. Okay. We have a couple of new guests that have joined us, so we'll start with Heidi. Heidi, you want to introduce yourself? Can you hear me? She's multitasking. Marcus, how about you? You want to introduce yourself?
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hey, right on. Well, happy Friday. Marcus Nova. I'm a project manager for the Shasta Trinity. Also serve part-time as a deputy district ranger for Shasta Lake. And I'll be joining you guys today to provide a update on the Minersville boat ramp project. So I don't know if you want me to roll into that right now and
Yeah,
deliver.
we'll stick with the agenda. Marcus, just want
Okay.
a chance to introduce yourself. Yeah, we look
Sure.
forward to your report. Yep.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you. Okay. Laura, you are up. BLM update.
Hi. Yeah, I apologize.
Your volume is down. Is there any way we can?
Got it. I gotta put the
Okay.
microphone down.
Much
I
better.
apologize. I don't have a camera because the big staffing news is that I am back in my normal role as Assistant Field Manager for Recreation and Realty, and Jennifer Mata is back as Field Manager. So I've moved back into my cubicle. So yeah, that's good news for us. I'm really excited to have her back. Other kind of staffing updates. The Department of Interior did another early retirement deferred resignation period, and we had yet more staff leave. So that's that. In our local office here, we lost another person. So yeah, that brings us up to 8-ish, six to 8, depending on how you count it. Anyways, other than that, recreation-wise, our this time of year, we're big on campground stuff, getting them up and running. So our Trinity River campgrounds are open, and we have a full complement of hosts. And they're all returning, so love that for me personally. They're all known quantities. They're also all pretty great people. And the big change this year is that we have implemented recreation.gov reservations at all of our campgrounds. Douglas City is now primarily reservation with a few first come first serve. Still, I think 4 or something sites are still first come first serve. And then at Steelbridge and Junction City, they're each about half reservations, half first come first serve. So this is all stuff that it's easy to, we're not going to change mid-season, but at the end of the season, looking at our data, looking at our fee compliance, talking with the hosts, getting information from the community, we're happy to talk more about. We saw a drastic increase in fee compliance in Douglas City last year when we did half reservations, half first come first serve. And particularly for that site where it has a higher level of amenities, we just really feel like we can provide a broader service to the broader public by having reservations there. So happy to talk more about that if anyone is interested in it. I understand the drawbacks of rec.gov. I truly do. But there's also a lot of benefits. Other than that, the other big bummer news is that I was really excited about, and I talked about it for several years. We had bipartisan infrastructure law funding, resilient recreation funding that came actually to BOR and then went to TRRP, and then they put it in an interagency agreement with BLM to be used to make upgrades to our campgrounds, including replacing the well at Junction City Campground and reopening Steiner Flat Campground after some needed improvements in order to charge fees. And that, I guess, we had just skated under the radar. But for various bureaucratic reasons, we stopped skating under the radar, and that money got pulled away from us, and we are no longer able to use it. So at this point, I think our medium-term plan for Junction City is to just operate that as a dry campground. We've been doing it for 2 years. I know it's not the best, but people seem to make it work. It's close enough into town. People can buy water, and it reduces our infrastructure burden, which is something we're needing currently. So that's kind of the medium term. I'm not saying never would we replace it, but we're not really pursuing that anymore. And then Steiner Flat is indefinitely on hold. We also last year got told to spend down our recreation fee account that we had been stockpiling for use at Steiner Flat. So we also don't have a backup plan for reopening Steiner Flat. Yay. Other than that, Bigfoot Challenge is going well. I don't know. Don't want to end on a bummer note, but I'm happy to. You guys know me. Like, I like to just be honest about what's happening. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, happy to talk about any of that.
What, Laura, this is Kelly. Just out of curiosity, like, what was the investment that you were looking at for opening Steiner Flat? Like, how much did you anticipate the budget for?
That's a good question. I am not sure I have a great answer in this moment. Essentially, there's some of our staff time that it would be great for that. I was counting on that to be funded. But that's neither here nor there, kind of. So staff time, we need a significant amount of like base to kind of upgrade the road, redo the road in various ways to make it more accessible and function as more of a fee-based campground. And then trucking, our dump truck is out of commission and I have no hope of that getting solved. So anyways, trucking, gravel, staff time. We have most of the like bare box type stuff. Yeah, and then there was plans for one more bathroom. So this is a big wag, but in the $75K range would be my guess, including the staff time. Without
but so like you don't need like environmental compliance or anything like that for the additional bathroom or any. I mean,
we've already done it.
You already have. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just the implementation part, really.
Yeah. There's also some hazard tree stuff in there for sure. So that's actually an additional cost. But okay. If you are seeing grant opportunities or something like that, we can maybe I'll put it on my list to get a more specific number. And just get that to you so that if you ever see anything come up, we can kind of go from there. That's actually a very good action item.
That's great. That's why I was asking. So that'll be helpful.
All right. Thank you very much, Laura. Any other questions for Laura?
So that'd be a good campground to get open.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of spaces.
Weaverville.
It is. Agreed. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, moving on to Forest Service updates. I don't see a Six Rivers representative, so we will move on to the Trinity National Forest. So, Monique, is that you?
I will provide some updates, but I was curious if I could let Marcus go ahead of me for the Minersville update. Thank you.
Marcus, you're on.
Awesome. Thanks, Monique. I have a soccer game to go coach here this morning, so I appreciate getting to expedite. So Minersville is going very well. We have gotten most of our specialist reports in for the NEPA, and we're hoping that we'll have that CE signed late this month or early June. We're still waiting for our hydrologist to finish his report. He's been saddled between we're tight on hydrologists on the Shasta Trinity right now. So Steve Bachman is trying to balance several projects, but we're hoping that we'll get that report pretty soon, and then that will allow us to finalize the CE and get that signed. And then other great news, there is a CEQA component to this project, and there's some debate over that about what's triggering CEQA, whether it's our state funding that we receive from DBOW or the 401 permit that we have to get. But one way or the other, we're so fortunate that the county has offered Patrick Flynn to help us lead the CEQA side of that and help us with those permit processes. So, and those will take a little time as we'll have to go through a review by the North Coast Water Board and then working with Army Corps. So, but the good news is that those permits won't hold us back from proceeding ahead with our contract, which is the next step after our NEPA is complete. We'll be kind of tying off our design plan. We're right now at the 90%, getting reviewed by the Department of Boating and Waterways. They had a slowdown. Their engineers already looked at it. But their project manager, Joe Dux, has been out with some family emergency stuff. So he should be getting his report to us by next week. And that will give us the opportunity to give that back to our contract engineers at TEPA, who will basically finalize our design. So put all those comments in there. We did receive and we appreciate the comments back that we received from your team there at the collaborative. And we definitely took those into consideration. I want to make a note that the current design shows that the boat ramp or the actual boarding float will be a center mount float. And this was recommended by the Department of Boating and Waterways because it's going to allow for two-way traffic. So that way, if we have two folks going down on the ramp at the same time, we're going to have two boats launching at the same time, which will avoid user conflicts and help create a little bit better flow. The concern that we did here is that because we get those localized easterly winds coming off the lake, we get that boarding float pushed sometimes. And so there was a recommendation of mounting or installing that boat or that dock to the east side of the ramp. I think by staying in the middle, we still kind of address that, because even if we are getting an easterly wind with that boarding float getting pushed, we'll still have one lane essentially available for, still to launch. So I think that's a good option. But we're working, our team has never really faced or been involved with a center mount. And so we're looking at some designs and talking to some local practitioners about how we channelize the cabling system and anchoring system for that. And so there's a few questions on that. We also took into consideration the comments that were given by your team about the raised curbs and islands in the parking lot, and to remove those, as those would potentially create a barrier. So we're looking into changing those up too, and moving also some of the lighting over to where the bathroom is going to be built, the CXT. So anyways, we are fully listening and hearing those comments and trying to integrate that into our plan and making this product good for the people of Trinity County and the guests that come into the county to use the dock. So things are looking really good. And there's so much red tape that I would have never imagined could be involved with a project like this. And we continue to find new challenges because there's so many different agencies involved. But we are, I think, still making very good progress considering, and this still stays a top priority for the Shasta Trinity. And we have our leadership support to get our specialists and our resources mobilized and activated to ensure that we expedite this project. And as I've mentioned before, we were able to move funding from other construction projects within our agency to cover shortfalls. That funding came with a time limit. So the clock is running for us. We have to have this obligated into a contract no later than 2027, the end of 2027. So full commitment on our part to get that pushed through and accomplished. And we're making great progress. And I'm looking forward to having something here soon this summer, hopefully into a contract. And we're going to maybe have a 100% design plan and ready to rock and roll. Any questions on that?
Well, I know one issue that has come up. I didn't hear you address it, but there's been some concern about kind of the parking situation, down close to the ramp, right? Because
Yeah.
obviously that's a mud hole most of the time. What does that look like in the 90% or the full,
So as we go into the permitting process with the water boards, the 401, we have to provide, and I'm not fully appraised to how that works. I've never actually been involved with obtaining that permit, but we have our engineering team and our hydrologist working with them. But my understanding is part of that permit is that we have to show some mitigation measures. Part of that is that we are kind of creating some parking lots, getting some of the parking off that low water mark, creating some plantings to stabilize. But our hope in that discussion as we go into the permitting process is to discuss a potential to have an off-ramp, so to speak, from that boat ramp so people could leave. It would most likely be at the top. And so we would have a place to remove some of that riprap. I don't want, and I was talking to Jill Cox about this, I don't want that frustration to hold anything back. And I would encourage us not to worry too much about it. Let's get this thing built. And what I have learned, and just so you guys know my background, I managed recreation for the east side of the forest for about 15 years. And I've been involved with lots of different construction projects. And what I have learned is that it's sometimes better to get things in the dirt and built. And then we have actually a lot of flexibility afterwards to help modify the product, if you're catching my drift. Yep. So once it's built, there's opportunities to modify what we've done. And it actually becomes more in-house and easier to do. So I don't want to alarm anyone at water boards or think that we're going willy-nilly against what they're requesting of us. But I just think there's a lot of opportunity into the future. And that even though we build this, it's really easy to go back and make an adjustment to allow people to maybe park down there. And I want to make it clear, we are not, the Forest Service does not restrict low water parking. We actually allow it and encourage it. This is purely a water board's concern, and it has to do with contamination. And it's funny because I learned from Joe Dukes that there's several of these boat ramps throughout the state at different reservoirs, and they installed them with DBOW funding, kind of like we're doing, and they still allow low water parking. So it seems inconsistent with kind of how other places in the state are working, but again, we're working with the North Coast Water Boards and under their direction, and so it feels like it's a very localized decision. But one way or the other, there's opportunities. Don't fret. Let's just keep this moving. Let's spend that money. Let's get this 30-year plus project completed. And if we got to make adjustments afterwards, let's look at that. So
appreciate it. Anything else for Marcus?
Marcus, Pete Finney, I just want to thank you.
Oh, yeah, Pete. Thanks. Good to see your face. And you were the man that I was talking about.
Taking in those considerations, one, the raised curb stuff, which is just cosmetic stuff that creates problems. And I'm glad to see that moved along. And at least I'm with you on what we might need to do down the road after the ramp gets in for a high water access.
Great. And thank you so much, Pete. I appreciate the phone conversation and all your written comments too. That was really helpful. appreciate that time.
Okay, well, we're glad to have you on board.
You bet, Marcus.
Cool.
Yep. I think we've seen a lot more progress here in the last several months than we've seen in the last 10 years. So, all good.
All right. Well, I'll let you all
Marcus.
go. And for the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Good luck on that soccer team there.
Yeah, most definitely.
This is
Oh.
Heidi. I just want to say thank you for your fresh enthusiasm on this long-standing project. I'm
yeah.
happy to hear momentum.
You bet. And we're going to try to keep that going for sure.
All right. Take care. Okay, back to you, Monique.
All right. I'll also loop in the update for Hayward in this discussion, although I'll try to draw back on memory on what I have for Tannery. But okay, so for our developed recreation folks, there's been 5 new developed recreation seasonals that have been hired. They started with us within the last 1 to 3 weeks. So that's been great to have a lot of new faces. Just want to give a special shout out to the Smart Workforce Center. We've been partnering with them for a couple of years, maybe like the past 3 years now, to help with storm damage. And through that partnership, we've been able to work with hiring a lot of locals under the Smart Center. And now a lot of those locals that we've been able to hire with Smart Center are a part of our seasonal recreation team over here on the Weaverville district, which is absolutely fantastic. I think it's probably the majority of our seasonals right now. And with that, we've had a lot of success hiring seasonals force-wide. We were allotted 39 seasonal positions. Most of those were in recreation, but I think around 7 were within our timber and forestry department. And so 37 of 39 was our hiring success rate, which is really fantastic. Other than that, there are a few campgrounds that are opening today. That includes Forest Glen. Yeah, it's great, Laura. That includes Forest Glen and Hellgate. And then the lower Hayden Flat section of our in our Trinity Recreation area is open, but they're still working on opening up our upper section. With our hiring of new seasonals, they do require training. We had a new employee orientation, and those folks were out for a week. So I have heard that we've been a little bit behind on opening up some of our campsites, but progress is being made. Now that we have more people in our workforce, it was a little bit of a weird time to get people onboarded because we're doing a lot all at once, and they still need to be trained. So there's that. And then also our big focus right now has been getting Hayward ready and for people to recreate in. I don't know if folks have been out to see the Hayward Flat project, but there's just a lot of work to be done in reestablishing damaged fire rings, getting the camp tables out, reestablishing some of those camping pads that may have had trees felled within them, and then branches, when a tree's falling, sometimes get lodged into some of those sites, so those have to be pulled out. The parking barriers also need to be replaced at some of those sites. We do have a volunteer crew coming from the Bay Area starting on the 13th, and then that campground is anticipated to be open on the 15th. But one of the issues that we're having right now at that site is we have a pretty large debris pile, and we're just trying to figure out what could be the best mechanism for getting rid of that slash debris pile from the landing. We're brainstorming a bunch of different options. One of our options fell through And so now the next one is a curtain burner, and we have established a burn permit to get a curtain burner to burn some of that slash, but curtain burners can still produce a lot of smoke. And so we just want to be considerate of people who are recreating there and not smoking them out while they're recreating there. But we also don't want to have a slash pile that could potentially be hazardous to communities if somebody decides to go over and burn it. Because sometimes people can be a little reckless. So that's what we're trying to work with at that campsite. And then Tannery is on track to be opening on time, and a big reason for that, and it's going to be open on the 15th. There was a big push to get a lot of folks to help get Tannery up and running, and that's because we hosted a Wilderness Ranger Academy this week. We were hosting a ton of people, nationwide, Forest Service, BLM partners, to get training for a week. Thank you, Heidi. Heidi was one of the speakers during one of the sessions out at our Wilderness Ranger Academy. And this training is a great way to get people experience in rock work, to get folks experience in packing, just really starting them off, developing good leadership and trail building skills so that they're ready to go for their season's work this year. Another thing that we have coming up, which is not just it's over on the east side of the forest, but it's available to our partners. But we have a trail stewardship training that is coming up over in the Mount Shasta area. That's going to be in early June. Although it's also overlapping with the LaGrange Mountain Biking Classic, but we invite all of our partners that work on trails to go to this trail stewardship training. So that's a lot of what we've been working on this so far. And Laura, yes, you can come see it operating if we get the everything established. That would be a great learning opportunity.
All right, thank you, Monique. Anything else as far as your report goes?
I think that's all. Oh, we do have two, we have two Seas crews that have started with us. I think I mentioned them earlier, but they're out on their first week of doing hitches. And so we have one crew over in the Yola and then another crew over at the East Fork of the New River. And then we also have mobilized green interns. We have around 8 interns that are working on trails they're hopping around from trail to trail, opening those up. So we're thankful for our partners and helping us with those efforts.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for Monique?
Monique, is there an update on Jackass Springs? There was going to be some work done over there.
That's a good question. Maybe by the end of this meeting, I can, our timber person is out. I'm trying to draw back on memory for this one. I don't remember what the status of it is at the moment, but maybe I can check in with you next time or send a follow-up email for Jackass Springs. Sorry about that.
Any other questions for Monique? Not seeing any. Thank you very much, Monique.
Thank you.
So I know you're just Hayward Flat, but we have Trinity Camps update. Anything else on Trinity Camps?
Yeah, what I've heard so far is that for Tannery, because Hayward was the big campground that we were doing before Tannery, is that we're making sure that for Tannery, we're trying to create better mechanisms for catching the slash piles before they get too big, because that's an issue that everything else can be done and it can look great. But if there's a giant slash pile where you're camping, that is definitely an eyesore. So I don't know what that looks like. I just know that now they're discussing that more, which I'm happy about. It's just been one of those things that we're learning as we go, and needing to have more collaboration with those activities.
So is Tannery still scheduled for like the fall after this season?
That is my understanding, yes. We're just making sure that we have pretty well established contract guidelines or plans in place for the slash.
Sure. Okay.
Just another question
Yep.
regarding that. I know that Hayward's a little bit more open as far as like it seems like it has a lot less infrastructure as far as like parking curbs and kind of like the little fences and things that are kind of Tannery has a lot more of that infrastructure. Is there a concern, you know, I know that they used, Feller Buncher to try to minimize some of the damage to the infrastructure, but clearly with as many trees that, got hand felled, it seemed like when we were there last, there was quite a bit of damage to, like you had said, like parking, structures and things of that nature. Is that part of the consideration of like how that operation is going to actually go in Tannery, knowing that it's bigger, it's more frequent. I mean, like it's pretty frequented throughout the year. Like I guess I would be wondering what your concerns are. Having learned from Hayward Flat, like how is that going to be implemented, I guess, in Tannery?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that one of the things that could be done better in the future would be so we have a contracting officer representative when a contract is being implemented. And in this case, the contracting officer representative was our timber sale administrator, who is great at what they do everywhere. But we also need recreation eyes out there and monitoring the contracts when the work is happening. I think damage is inevitable. It's really hard to avoid when operating in a tight space. It's really hard to see those parking barriers. Luckily, the parking barriers are easier to replace than some of the other things, like the fire rings. We can still replace the fire rings, but if we can catch them as they're happening, that makes things a lot easier. And so, like I said, one of the things that we can improve on in the future would be having someone who's knowledgeable in recreation out and viewing the contracted work as it's happening to make corrections as it's happening.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on Trinity Camps, Monique?
Not right now, but I have a follow-up for Jackass Springs later.
Very good. All right. Okay, we do not have Carol with us today, but any update on Bowerman Barn that you have for us, Monique?
I apologize. I didn't check in with Pete before this, but I know that he was last we talked was going to put that contract in and was really close to getting that. I'm gonna send him a quick message right now because he's in. I can come back to this.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, moving on to partner updates. Any Trinity Trails update from the Molinos?
The big thing is the bike race coming up June 6th.
Boy, it's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything coming together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Good.
How many riders we got
97 when I looked yesterday.
Wow. Okay.
so
I
far?
want
That's
another
good.
75.
Okay.
We'll see what
What'd you have last year?
160.
Okay, so you're looking
Yeah.
something close to that.
Yeah.
Very good.
Or better. Whatever.
Or better. Yeah.
A lot of people wait to see how hot it's going to be.
Sure.
You know, 'cause we get most of our riders from Humboldt County,
Oh.
and they
They don't like the heat.
they like the heat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of people that sign up in the last week.
Yeah. Okay, Josh, anything on Watershed Center outside of the Upper Trinity?
Yeah, I mean, we're continuing to work on viewing reservoir trails. Mostly there's 7 miles built there, and there's probably about 6 to go. We're out of funding, but there's NEPA coverage for continuing to build, so we're trying to figure that out. Um, I did want to say that the Trinity Trail Alliance Trail Subcommittee, um, trying to get that like more it's been running the whole time. It's just we're trying to kind of reinvigorate it a little bit so we can like coordinate trail efforts a bit better between all the various groups that are doing stuff. So we got a meeting coming up on the 13th about that. I'll let Evan talk about the volunteer day for the LaGrange. Does that sound good, Evan?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think I said this at the last meeting, but we're looking at this Sisson Callahan Trail up in the Upper Trinity. Um, we're looking at some meadow reroutes to get the trail out of some of the really wet areas that are real problematic um, for maintenance mostly, but also for meadow restoration work. So we're working with Taylor Cole of the Mount Shasta District on that project. We're talking with Aaron McBride and company about we do have some funding to work on the East Weaver Lake Trail. We're just not exactly sure if we should focus it up high or on the middle section, or maybe even he kind of mentioned that he might like us to work on the LaGrange extension instead. So we might talk to the grantor and see if they'll allow that shift. So we can kind of build that last section of the LaGrange extension. And then the Hayfork Ruth Trail, which is, basically right out of Ruth, goes up to the top of South Fork Mountain, is really popular with locals in Ruth, burned over, and it's mostly gone at this point. So that's going to be a big project this summer with equipment, with the small trail dozer and the mini excavator. And then lastly, the majority of the work is probably going to be on the South Fork Trinity River Trail. Again, there's a section in the upper portion that's been hit really bad by August complex wildfires, and the trees kind of continuing to come down, maybe a lot lately. So there's a bunch of work up there. And then we've got our YCC crews running this summer. So we've just hired the crew leads and we're just starting to hire the crews. So they'll be doing a bit more like natural resource education work than in the past, a little less trail work, but they'll definitely be their bread and butter of like manual labor will be the working on trails, whatever the Forest Service decides. But Weaver Basin Trail System, the BLM trails around Ewing, South Fork River Trail, all that kind of stuff. I think that's it.
All right, thank you, Josh. Any questions for Josh? And then Evan, did you want to do that now or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So myself and Clay, who's in the training today workshop in Reading, we're going to help organize with Josh and with TTA. We're going to organize for May 16th, Community Trail Day, Maintenance Day. So depending on how many folks we get, the intent is to try to be in support of the race, but depending on how many folks we get, we may try to brush and do some work on Mackenzie Gulch just because it's real accessible for volunteers. And then depending on how many folks we get and interest, if we can get folks who are more interested in bike race, mountain bikers, and are able to go east into the basin and see what brushing and light trail work we can do there. So that'll be May 16th.
Okay. We didn't have anywhere near as many downed trees this past winter as we'd seen in previous years. So that's good. They may have reached critical mass on that.
The one good thing about the lack of snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess, is there anything else you wanted to mention?
That's all I have.
Okay. Just wanted to mention that we're doing a wildflower hike this Mother's Day, on Sunday morning, over the weekend. out of, I believe they're going out of East River Campground, if I'm not mistaken, at 9 a.m. So, beyond that, I think you covered the other piece with trail maintenance, so I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, any questions for Kelly? Evan?
I guess I'll add, just as funding allows, I'd love to see maybe we do like 2 trail days, at least on our end, try to organize with everybody's help too. But yeah, I'd love to organize at least like maybe 2 in the spring, 2 in the fall, on a recurring basis. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But
What trails would that?
I guess it would just be volunteer community organizing for whichever wherever work is needed.
Oh,
So that's what I'd love to see happen. But yeah, I'll see how funding looks for it. So.
okay.
I will say that the forest has done a pretty good job of keeping things fairly well maintained, and they've been cleaning up a whole bunch and doing some burning up on the East Weaver Campground Loop, Day Ranch kind of area. So kudos to Forest for starting to process all that downwood that we see up there. So greatly appreciated as somebody that uses that part of the basin trail system fairly regularly. So
What's going on with the trail along the from Leaf Hung Park?
oh yeah, that I just did get a report out on that. Thank you for reminding me. It sounds like we've made some headway with the UROC in partnering on that, and my understanding was there was a proposal being prepared, and I don't remember who the proposal was with, but basically to begin planning purposes, and I don't know if Laura knows more about that than I. But there is some movement there. So I'll try and get a little bit more information on that. Because I think that's they were hoping to have that done within the next couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Are you working with the Rancheria at all?
Sorry, I get confused. Is this the West Weaver Creek kind of trail
Well,
extension stuff, or is this different, Kelly?
Lee Fong part, like Lee Fong Trail, the one
Okay.
that's from the wetlands, and I think
Okay.
there was also another proposal for there was another funding opportunity that may be applicable for some of the work that needs to get done at the wetlands, actually.
Yeah, I'd like to see that happen because people from the Rancheria, walk every day,
yeah.
and it would be nice to get them, from the parking lot of the Rancheria, you could go down to the wetlands.
Right.
If you went straight across it and made a trail that's not very steep for people of all help, but they could use that thing.
Yeah, I think
Even if it's just the wetlands part of it.
Mhm. Yeah, I believe that I did hear that we had a meeting with Rancheria
Yeah.
also, and so I think there's some movement. And
Well, Jack had a crew last year. He went a relatively young crew because I ran into him with my dog, but they cleared out around the wetlands. Pretty good. That trail pretty accessible, very open. Yeah. Well, may not be true 2 years from now, but that's its current status.
I'd like it a little more accessible than that.
Oh, sure.
Little more leveler and little
Yeah.
more walkable.
At least you got all the weeds out.
Because you've got all kinds of people with all kinds of health reasons,
Correct.
But you want, right now they walk on the pavement up top, and you want them to get them down into nature and walk around down there.
Mhm.
And we're looking forward to the trail when the whole thing is completed.
Yeah.
Because people will use that trail, they walk along Main Street now, and the problem is every block you get an interaction with vehicles, so it's dangerous, if you can get them to walk around that part, it's proper. And then especially if there was a cutoff, like to go to the market, and it makes the trail more usable, when they found in other places that trails get used when it's the easiest way to get to the market, it's
Like Glen Road would be a good
yeah,
connection for
Yeah.
that purpose. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yep.
I
Yeah.
do have this kind of like bigger idea brewing. I think we've talked to you guys about this before, where the Yurok tribe's doing that larger restoration project in Weaver Creek, downstream of the Mill Street. Um,
Yeah.
and they asked us to kind of redesign the trail through the trail's already there, but Jack, spent a lot of time trying to figure out the right way to put the trail through there. And that kind of led to a whole bunch of ideas about connecting those trails through town. I know it's all in the old 1990s, uh, Weaver Basin master plan is good ideas, but I think there is some momentum building. We've got a group of people working on like hydraulic models to try to tie in restoration projects through the center of town. Because there's two 5 counties projects. There's the Caltrans has, four big stream road crossing upgrades that they're working on right now. The Weaverville Fish Walk, they're calling it, where it's like Garden Gulch, Sydney Gulch, East Weaver, West Weaver are all getting upgrades. So it's kind of there is a good opportunity right now to try to tie all these things together and talk about getting a trail through. That there we haven't been able to get any kind of funding to work on this, but there's been a group of people still continuing to work on those ideas. So I don't know if anybody really wants to be involved or has ideas about funding or has ideas about specifically how that should happen. You know, um, I mean, right now I'm just trying to push it personally with spare time and don't really have any time or money for it, but we're trying to keep it going. So I don't know. Um, if anybody has any suggestions about how to do that or who should be involved, I'd love to talk to folks about it.
Very good.
Um, has this been brought up to the Weaverville Community Forest Steering Committee? I'm sure they're involved in some way, but or
I don't have any kind of tie-in with, I don't even know if I've been to a Weaverville Community Forest Steering Committee. And this is more of like downtown, not in the community forest necessarily.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I guess obviously we, with the Weaver Creek Restoration Project, like we've been looking and talking about that Leafong Trail. Um, I could be convinced, I guess, but this isn't set in stone. But I just, for what you're kind of talking about, Josh, like I just don't think that Leafong Trail where we would have to cross Weaver Creek is a good option for that. But I understand it's a big chunk of public land, and while we're hard to work with, we're also easy to work with in some ways. So I get it. Like I would say as conversations progress, whatever, like the BLM understands the desire. We just, we can't take on more infrastructure really at this point. But happy to discuss further also, I think is kind of our current take.
Yeah, I
the
mean, I don't know if anybody has experience working with Caltrans. I think, I had a conversation with Christina Prosperi, and who's lives in Reading, but is like a regional walkways and bikeways.
Active transportation. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was kind of mentioning that Caltrans sometimes has the ability to fund large initiatives like this if it gets them, because they can't actually meet their regulations through Weaverville with walkways and bikeways because of the historic nature and how tight things are. So she was pretty interested in this idea, but then her email won't work now, and I don't know if she's moved on and there's somebody else, but
I
I'm
I don't
kind of
think
hit a
she
wall
has.
there.
I'll try to track that down. They're doing a Middle Creek Trail extension from basically to do an off-highway bike path to Old Shasta. And we permitted that 10 years ago, maybe. It's right when I first got here, and they have yet to build it. So I also like the Caltrans budget is a little wild right now. They keep pushing out projects like this. So just, I'm sorry, I'm always a pessimist, but just a note on that funding source. But I think I'll try to track down if she has moved on her replacement, because I did just get an email from that same program area.
Yeah, to me, this project is like a this is like a 10-year, if we're lucky, project idea.
Okay.
Well, some of us don't have 10 years. I think the Rancheria could play a bigger role in the park. I'd take a group once a week, Tuesdays at 11, and a walk around Lee Pong Park in Suffolk. We would like to extend that walk, and I think the Rancheria could play a bigger role in this thing. I don't know who to talk to down there, but I think they would.
They're generally pretty community minded.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I mean, Ross, if you see Michael Novak, I mean, he's not like in charge, but I know he has a fair bit of sway with them. So
Yeah.
Okay.
maybe even Angela right now. Before
Angela's gone.
not until tomorrow, not until the weekend, right?
She doesn't work anymore, I know.
Okay, I think we are at the end. Any ideas on next meeting for agenda items? I don't know.
I'm gonna try to get either the economist himself or at
Okay,
least
right. Yep.
guy to speak about that study and how people can.
If you're able to make that connection and they're willing to do so, please loop me in with that communication so that I can, give them whatever they need to schedule and we can get them on the agenda.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Very good.
One of the other things, would be maybe an update on the concessionaire agreement contract
Right.
on Trinity.
Did we hear any? Because I know last time you brought up the couple of boat ramps that hadn't. Do we know if they're in now?
I think they are,
Okay.
but
Just an update on the status of the concessionaire contract, or
right,
just
yeah, because it's getting close to being renewed.
Yep.
I don't think it's too far in the future.
think that's doable, Monique, to have kind of a update on the concessionaire contract where that's at?
Yeah, I have a few follow-up items that I have written down. The bridge, in the Coffee Creek area,
Yeah.
the Jackass Springs Campground, barn, and then when the concessionaire contract needs to be renewed, is that the question?
Or where's that? We think it's getting close, right?
Correct.
So we just want an update on the status of the concessionaire contract.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Anything else for next meeting, which will be in July? Yeah.
Guess we'll have an update for that SNC proposal.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you all for your participation today and contributions. Much appreciated. Have a great weekend. Beautiful weekend ahead of us. Warm one.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.
See everybody.
Bye.
To put something specific on when the courtesy docks go in.
Exactly.
And that could be as simple as 10 feet